Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything's working correctly here. Good. Welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, all that fun stuff. As always, before you're jumping in, on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the live trade room morning prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Going over a couple things first off. If you aren't a member of SSFTG or a part of the YouTube family, check out the join button below the stream. That way you can gain access before our next private webinar, get access to the SSFTG Discord chat, not to mention the awesome badge next to your YouTube name to show your support and a boatload of other stuff. If you're trying to figure out what it is exactly that we're doing, look no further than the SSFTG Day Trading Academy, not including the live streams, YouTube tutorials, and everything else. The Academy comes with 19 plus hours of material loaded for you, and that collection just keeps growing. Please keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have between a 3 to upward of a 10-second delay, depending on where you're logging in from. But if you want to level up to VIP status, you can enjoy exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed live analysis stream, which is via Zoom Direct Meeting going on simultaneously, as well as monthly VIP webinars, private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access. The list goes on and on and on. And obviously that's continuously growing as well, if I can speak. So whether you're here as a totally new person who's never seen me before, or a veteran over in the VIP stream, welcome. Glad to see you. Glad to have you, and I'm glad that you're hanging out with me today. So let's take a look at some news and some charts and get things going this morning. The first thing off, make sure to grab your DP levels. Those are posted on the ssftg.com/brief area. You can grab those all from there. That will get you covered over the major markets that we're taking a look at. Along with that, hey Arturo, how's it going? As we're going through it, we also have a few things to take a look at, as well as some, charts and just a general overview as what we're looking at. From the news side of things, there is nothing. It's totally dead. There's not a thing going on today. So the news calendar is dead quiet. That could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing, I suppose. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But as it stands right now, there's nothing. So we don't really have to worry about anything from that front. Get that out of the way. Take a look at the morning charts here and see if anything has changed since the last update. That sigh got worse and worse as it went on. We've got the NASDAQ overall, which is, it's moving pretty well. We've got a nice ascending wedge working its way to the upside. But the market is breaking above the top of the wedge, and that was at the end of the day on Friday. And as soon as we opened up, right into, Sunday, it dove all the way back down, two-legged correction, right back down again to where the buyers kind of kicked things off. The one thing that kind of stands out to me is that if the buyers are trying to get this to go rolling back to the upside, where are they? Why are they having such a hard time breaking above the high? They still haven't broken above the highs. 13,000 is hovering right above, but there's a lot of really awkward movement going on here. If we go to the upswing before the end, going into the weekend. What? Will it not let me? There we go. It's fairly obvious that there was a ginormous amount of volume that came in there around 12,800 all over the place. But from there, not really a whole lot happened going into the end of the day. So if we look at that comparatively going into what's happened since then, we can see that it's pretty fair to say that they filled in that volume. But there is still a little bit of volume lacking at around the 12,908s as well as 930s. The fact that this is all happening ahead of 13,000 is kind of the concern, because when we stack these together and look at what's going on in the bigger picture from the low, we can see that the buyers are still maintaining strength above 12,790. That's the POC from way down there, and they're trying to hold things up, and as long as they're able to support the market, realistically, we have every reason to believe that they're trying to get it to rotate higher. If we look at the overall high to low, and look to see what they want to do from there, that could give us a little bit of a different perspective. Not really. Then it's just massive accumulation, and it's got an undertow the entire way through. So, I mean, the big thing that we're really waiting for now is just the pullback. Buyers will probably want to buy a dip, but likely buying below swing lows is a trap, something like that. That's usually where things get started. What better spot than that giant VVP sitting at 755.75? Right there looks almost perfect for a bounce point for longs. So let's see if they can get dip. We'll see if they can dip back to 57.75. That's a really far away. We'll see. Over on the S&P, rising channel support, which, I mean, the channel's okay. It could be a lot better. I mean, it's nice and aggressively bullish. It's rallying higher. There's a lot of sentiment to the upside. It's obvious that buyers are showing some good continuation higher. And the big thing now that we've got to see here is, you know, with this continuation, are buyers holding the lows of the channel? And so far, they have been. It's not been the best thing in now, looking at it when it's breaking through, but the buyers were holding it. So the fact that the buyers had this rally up, they're getting that two-legged correction back. Now we've got higher low, maybe another higher low before continuation phase back to the upside. There's a lot of things that stand out for buyers to try to rip this thing back to the upside. But if it starts dipping lower, there's just support all over the place. There's not really any reason for the sellers to want to do much here, at least not that I can see. Because realistically, we've got a nice measured leg down, which would be another measured leg down. It doesn't make any sense to sell into that. We've got earlier buyers support here, which was already shown as defense, which is a bad spot to sell into. If it does want to go a little bit lower, buyers will be defending a little bit lower as well off that bottom side bull bar. There's defense there too. There's just, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the sellers are fighting a losing battle here, which means it's kind of a BTFD morning. Buy the dip, trap lows, that kind of stuff. Over on gold, it's barely conscious. Gold's not doing anything. Very slow, very sideways. It is towards the lows of the range. There's a decent amount of support coming in down here. That's about it. I mean, honestly, there's not really much to do on gold. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So we've got crude oil, which, I mean, props to crude for trying, right? We've got to give it to crude oil for giving it a shot, trying to break above the highs. We've got an attempt, but I mean that's about it. It's not doing so well anymore. Hey, how's it going, Bill? So, I mean, they got that attempted rally above the highs at 61, and they continued back up to 61.50, tried ramping above it. If we look at the overall volume from that swing low, the inside swing low, to the highs at least, not including this pullback yet. I don't want to see that. There was a lot of volume that built up in the 61.30s, 61.40s. It's fairly obvious what happened there. But if we include the rest of the volume, jeez, pretty straightforward accumulation volume going on here. So it's, I mean, sellers are looking for another leg down. The previous megaphone that it was trying to break out of, they had a chance to try to hold it as support. So far, that's not doing so well. Buyers are going to be looking for maybe a little bit more of a dip, trying to get into a sub-swing low, something along those lines, just to make sure that they're getting in as cheap as possible. I just don't see a reason as to why buyers would want to buy way up here after that breakout was just so terrible. The last attempt off of the lows was an L5 continuation. Normally, if an L5 is going to reverse, it'll break out aggressively above the highs, which it did not. If it does, it'll usually hold an L2. It didn't even, I mean, it's basically a double top. When the double top came back, they held an L2. So, I mean, they still kind of fit the rules, a little bit weird, but they still kind of did it. It almost made it to an L3, and now we're breaking a little bit further up again. So we haven't, I mean, the big thing that crude is sorely missing here for bulls is a clean breakout above the highs here and really kind of shove this thing to the upside, get some proof. They don't have that yet. So as it stands, they're stuck. And now they're starting to get a little bit dumped on here. Buyers are going to be looking to come in on the cheap. We've got the $60 mark. We've got some previous major swings floating around $59.50. Even better, these stuck shorts down here, closer to $59. They would love to get out if they can get a little bit of a dip back there too. Just where it is now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Over on the euro, more continuation to the downside and finding a really weird kind of wedge-ish, channel-ish type, whatever you want to call this thing. It spiked down aggressively on that big drive lower, and then off of these just kind of innocuous little highs, created this really aggressively strong bear trend. Who would have thought? But with that continuation down, it's pretty obvious that sellers had some good movement down. The only problem that they do have is that it's a higher low. They couldn't get the job done. Same over here, higher low. Some of the best reversals, when you're talking about higher low reversals, happen on L5s. Well, that's holding an L5 almost perfectly, and it's got a higher low, double bottom type situation going on. I mean, it's checking all the boxes to try to get a reversal. So buyers are trying to get it to go. It's more likely low probability. I mean, the aggression to the downside here on the euro sellers is pretty obvious. If anything, if we do get a bounce higher, it's more likely just buyers who got stuck on this move trying to get out of break even. If we take all of the volume on this whole drop lower, we can see it's plain as day accumulation volume. We know exactly what traders are doing right now. They're accumulating the euro because they got stuck. They got surprised. This wasn't what they were expecting. We had originally, at least, profit taking on the way down, but that has obviously changed gears. So buyers are attempting to get this to rotate back to the upside. It's had a bit of an undertow for a while now, although now we do have a higher low confirmation. We need to see the buyers actually ramp up. It's the only thing that's missing. Everything is checking all the boxes that the bulls need to try to get this thing to reverse, except actually doing the job to get it to revert, the important part. that part's missing. So I guess we'll give it a minute. Over on Bitcoin, absolutely fantastic rally to the upside. Big old chunk. It did have a little bit of a pullback going over the weekend. That was the concern. That dive lower on that gave us a higher low into a trapped, still higher low, and then a monster reversal all the way back up to the highs. We haven't made it to the top of the channel yet, and that channel is proven. We do have the highs and lows both being accepted by the market, so that's what we can work with. As far as upside objectives towards like the 59,000-ish area. I mean, the top of the channel right this second, if it were to just go screaming higher, is at 58.9. It's around there. We'll see if they can muster up the strength. I mean, there's a lot of momentum to the upside. So the big thing that we can really look for here is the fact that we did have, again, a reversal off an L5, right? Kind of, I know we've talked about that a lot, but just so you see it, right? Repetition. We've got the reversal off the L5 confirming a strong potential trend, but we need a strong breakout move to the upside. They reversed higher into an L3, but there wasn't really any breakout move. Continuation up into an L1. Breakout move, and now we finally get that continuation up, right? This is a good breakout leg. We're seeing some conviction, and where do they go? Right back to the L2. Bounces right off it. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. So now we're off to the races. L2 into almost another L2, but an L1. And then finally pulling back and holding an L1 again. Really fighting off not getting to those L2s. So you want to know what really stands out to me? I love this big breakout to the upside, and it's got a heck of a lot of conviction, and I'm sure buyers are going to be buying it around 56.9. But if we can get that dip to L2 and actually get a physical test of it, then we're talking, right? That's going to be a big value dip if buyers can get it. So right now, I like Bitcoin. It's ramping higher. Everything's doing what we want it to do. That's great. Fine and dandy, hunky-dory, whatever. But, well, I don't want to be a buyer up here. Now it's just hold and wait. Over on Ethereum, we've got this megaphone that's breaking above the highs. Talk about extremely hard to maintain price action. It's possible that this wider channel might have just gone into, I mean, it's obvious as a spiking channel, but the spiking channel, well, I didn't stand much of a chance there. So with this continuation higher, now we're kind of left looking at, well, where is this thing going? Right? We knew that there was continuation up since the 25th. It hasn't been able to go lower. Sellers have been trapped. But what kind of cycling is this really showing? And the only thing that really stands out here is on this big dive lower. Given how many times the sellers tried to get it to rotate down, they had a successful leg down here, another kind of successful leg down here, I guess. Kind of, sort of. I mean, it never made a new low, but it did at least make a lower low close, I guess. Whatever. But, you know, looking in terms of objectives, well, I mean, I have to assume that sellers kind of got stuck on that. And if we're looking at this big leg to the upside, look at this in terms of context. We had this big flush down. Nice bounce, continuation for sellers. Probably not as good as those sellers were hoping for. Then rotates up to a new high. Ooh, right? Now buyers are thinking, hey, buy the pullback. We just got a reversal. We're trying to go back up to the top. Then it dumps down to a new low. Sellers are thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Now we just got all those bulls trapped. So they try shorting. And then it goes up to a new high. And then all those bulls are thinking, hey, now we've got them trapped. And then it dumps all the way down to a new low. I mean, you can see it over and over and over again. Except the one that actually worked was the bears. So I have to assume that now that this move lower failed again, sellers are probably stuck. That would be the natural assumption, at least. And if they're stuck, they probably have a broken L1 going on. So we'll hunt for that first. They shot through the L1. They were given a broken L1 bounce here. They were given another broken L1 bounce here and another one here. We broke through L2. There were no other opportunities. it was the BL1 and that was it. Everything else is gone. And then they reversed up to a new high. And this, again, the important part, the reversal is on strength. So given the fact that we've reversed up and we're breaking through the highs on strength, if buyers are going to hold this, they're going to be looking to try to get that move up on an L1. They don't want it to pull back very far. If it starts dipping below that, obviously the L3 fits structure really nicely. That would be back at around 1660. But, I mean, I'm never opposed to an L4, L5 DCA. We'll see what it wants to do, I guess. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you all had a good weekend. How's everything looking over there in multicast land on the Zoom side of things? Still good? Y'all are quiet. You're making me nervous. I forgot to caffeine check. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. I mean, usually no feedback is a good thing, right? Yeah, I was just trying to, that's a good note, put on your clock. I was just trying to find my clock. I don't know where the heck the stupid thing went. It's probably tucked on top of another window that looks really similar. Aha, yeah, there it is. Got it. Barely won. Perfect. There's a Zoom meeting. Yeah, for VIP members to get around the delay, which some people were having issues with, which is understandable. If you go to the main page of SSFTG at the top, there is a VIP zone. You can click on that, and there's a link for the non-delayed, it's the Zoom Direct meeting in. For people who don't really care about the delay, because it is only, like I said, anywhere from 3 to 10 seconds, depending, then YouTube works perfectly. But there is also the non-delayed side of things available. "10 minutes until the open. Right around the corner. As far as the NASDAQ, looking at the bigger picture, I mean, not really a whole lot has happened, to be fair. We had that initial move down, attempted retest on the bottom side of that L2. I would assume that any buyers who were potentially kind of nervous around there, as soon as it went back up, they probably moved their stops to break even, which is a perfect excuse for a break even bounce. What a perfect trap area. So honestly, if you ask me, perfect trap area would be one more time. Get that third press low, still stay above the low, don't break the low, but get another trap move to the downside. That would be phenomenal. Excuse me. So we'll see if the bulls can keep this thing going to the upside or what they want to do here. My major concern, which we've been talking about for a long time now, the fact that we have not been able to get back to that L1. Those buyers are still stuck, and they're still being held down as resistance. So, ooh, man, I'm still really interested in what happens if we get back up to that L1 on the daily. Over on the 60-minute, not much has changed from the last time we drew things up. We've got a nice channel. The lows are still holding. I mean, there's not really much of a difference. As far as movement to the upside, maybe we've got a little bit of a... Man, that's another really kind of weird looking one, huh? Let's go dashed 1 thickness. But man, does it fit, huh? Perfect. All right. Nice continuation, nice movement. Looking good. Over on the 15-minute chart, from that perspective, I mean, so far we had that kind of funky gap from the weekend, the nice drive down, and then it's been trying to reverse off of the lows. If it's trying to reverse off the lows, typically that doesn't happen too often off an L3, but it can. It's better than like an L2 or something. But if that's the case, we're going to have to break out a little bit more aggressively than this. Right now we're running into what appears to be a measured leg up. Yep. To the tick almost. And that's pretty obviously what we're having some difficulty with. Now, that could give us a bit of a clue, because if we measure from the top of that pullback to the bottom, that's about a 0.75. And a lot of times markets love repeating themselves. So from this top, if we can find a 0.75 pullback, that would be a really nice zone of interest for the NASDAQ as an area of value. That would be at around 12,873.50. Let's do Lime. This would be the value repetition. Yeah, there we go. We'd make our way there eventually. I think that's right. I don't know. I'm not a grammar teacher. Whatever. We've got the value pullback area is going to be around 12,873.50. That's going to be the zone of interest from the 15-minute perspective. As far as the volume on the 15-minute, looking back as to what's been going on so far just today, we're probably going to have a pretty middle-weighted POC. A little lower, I guess. It lines up perfectly with where we want it to be. I'm looking at 873.50, and the POC's at 880. That's pretty nice. We'll see if they can hold support there. But if it does start breaking down, I mean, it's fairly obvious there's not much left to hold the market back up down there. And I mean, unless there's something from before. Looks like the accumulation volume bottomed out at 25. So that'll be the volume area of interest at around 25. We'll see if they can get down to that point if it does pull back. Buyers are still really anxiously looking for a correction. From what you've seen, what's next if L2 fails? So typically the market will work its way down the ladder, even if it's failing the whole way down. Whoops. You'll have a situation where let's just utilize really simplistic, a really simplistic way. Let's move this so you just have a nice flat area. So while the market is rallying up or down, you'll have the zones of interest drawn up, but you'll have, actually, let's use, sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place. I just have a better idea while I'm going through it to illustrate a better path. So we've got the market working its way down, and we had a nice continuation to the upside, and maybe it did it a few different ways. I don't know. Let's get that vindictive NASDAQ spike in there. There we go. And now it's pulling back, and you're looking for a way to be buying in. Well, if I'm looking to be a buyer at an L2, a lot of times what you'll end up seeing at every single one of these points, you'll see small bounces. Those will be clues that at least something's happening. There's participation in those areas. Until eventually you'll have that larger one. It's usually about twice as large as these small ones. And that will give you a clue that you're probably getting a little bit closer to the bottom. From there, then you can try to find a low, and maybe it goes down a little bit further, but usually it's a clue that something's going on. But if they don't start reversing it up, if you start getting a situation like this where it's still lower lows and lower highs and it's just not getting the job done, they'll usually dive to an L3 if it lines up nicely with previous structure. A lot of times that is the case, by the way. So it'll line up somewhere inside of there and try to get one last attempt. That last attempt will usually break above that previous swing high, and that will be the do or die point. They either go or they fail. If they fail, then it's up to maybe the swing buyers if they're strong enough to hold the L4, L5, but it becomes a lot harder. The probabilities sink dramatically for buyers if they start losing those L3s like that. Man, I am freezing. 3 minutes until the open. It seems like every day I get some advertisement for another Discord channel, huh? All over the place these days. Two-minute warning to the bell. $9.28 is when that final burst of volume comes in before the open. If we're looking at the overall continuation movement or what's going on here, we've got the move from the bottom, which had a reversal off of an L3. It's not preferable, but it's acceptable. They have another L3 bounce, so it helps. Then buyers are going to be looking for a repetitious L3, which has yet to fulfill, technically. Missed it by just a little bit. There's no undertow. There's nothing suggesting that the buyers are running into trouble here. So realistically, going into the open, if the market can pull back a little bit, there'll likely be buyers waiting there. One minute until the open. My hands can't be numb when I'm trying to click the mouse. Man, yesterday it was really nice out. Well, relatively speaking, for March. Today it was, yeah, I saw last night it was snowing again for a minute. None of it stuck, but ugh. 30 seconds until the open. Bouncing off the European range just a little bit. Buyers will be looking for a higher low pullback towards the 919 area. That'll be a retest of the European session highs. We're at the open, so this is obviously just straight up scalping. There's no other there's nothing else happening here that's going to be worthwhile. But in the zone around the 920s is going to be a zone of interest for buyers. Okay, this order down here is driving me up the frickin' wall right now with this scaling. Let me make this very obvious that if it gets here, I need to be paying attention. And then I can cancel that. Okay. More continuation to the upside. A lot of resistance is expected up in these 959s. I'm not expecting this big bullish rally to actually succeed in much. Oh, big bear bar right back down again. Sellers may choose to try to drive that lower, but the open volatility could mess things up. It might also help them. I would still really like to see a dip back to the European session highs around the 19 quarters. But that bear bar on the top makes me just, you know, just a little nervous. If it's just a straight string of bear bars down to the European highs, then I'm not going to be as interested. Not unless it's like one gigantic candle, but then I'd prefer it to dip down into like the 912s. So just trying to stay a little patient here to see where this wants to dive down to. I want to see it overextend. It's got to overextend more than this. This was nothing but a big string of bear bars initially on the way down, so getting a little bit more of a bounce, getting a bit more proof. That's good. Ooh. Nice quick dive back down again. Nice big strong bear bar too. Can they get that little washout below the 15s? That's going to be the scalper zone of interest. Big strong bull bar right back up again is going to get buyers very interested in more continuation. Immediately dumped on, though. Strong bear bar down. Again, I don't want to be the first one to the party buying directly into a big old bear bar. That's a real hard no thank you. Why are my shortcut commands working? Hang on. Which one of Razer controls the it's not that. Synapse? No, that's the color, right? Or does that do hotkeys too? Well, I tried opening it and all of my peripherals flashed, so maybe now my hotkeys are awake. Come on, NASDAQ, give me a little bit of a dip back so I can try this again. My hotkeys didn't work the last time around. Gold dipping down, testing DP support around 1718. S&P breaking, well, barely the highs. All right, Razer, Black Widow. Yeah, all the buttons are there now. I don't know, maybe it crashed. Testing settlement. Can the bulls break through this? We have the first 5-minute bar beyond us now, so as far as the first 5 volume goes, let's get an idea. Ooh, very, very obvious first 5 volume at 40. Crude oil is continuing to get smacked to the downside here. Nice breakdown through the previous wedge top. What would be really nice on crude is a retest around this area. What would that be? It'd be back around like the 60s, 70s. Could be a nice little zone there. The euro is in a train wreck of a location right now. Everything else looks like it's doing all right. All right, so fingers crossed my shortcut keys should be working now. I don't know what happened to my Razer stuff, but I think it all crashed. I rebooted it, now it's good. Really nasty failure across those highs. This is where we could be looking for that deeper dip down to the 893s, 890s. I'm going to be a lot less inclined to want to be a buyer too high up here unless it breaks out aggressively. So far, price is staying above the initial volume of the day. Trying to continue it back to the upside. As far as the S&P is concerned, since the beginning of the day, it's done nothing but go up. So, S&P is doing just fine. The overall volume up first on this move higher. Let's see what kind of volume we've got going on. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of accumulation, sure, I guess, but at the moment it still looks like distribution up at the top so far. We've created two very obvious points, but it looks like they're going to need to create a third. Take a look at the ES. What's going on over here? On the 5-minute. S&P's got some decent potential. The first 5-minute volume. I can't see it. 91, 39.51 quarter. Let's try that again. All right, I'm going to put the S&P up here. Actually, down here. No, I'd rather cover the 5-minute. I've already got the 500 tick. But I need to differentiate, so let me change the background color to something else. There we go, just kind of like a gray. Looking from a continuation standpoint, we've got an L3 that popped up into an almost L3, and that almost L3 did end up rolling back up to a new high. So, you know, kudos to them, I guess. We've got more movement to the upside. Bulls will try to be getting this to continue up from there. That gross triple top from earlier is not too much fun, but let's see if they want to play ball with this wedge. If anything, this wedge is probably getting a little tighter. And does it look like a channel? Hey, Frankie, welcome. Thanks for the subscription. Sorry, that notification scared the crap out of me. I'm still getting used to the YouTube side of things. I appreciate the subscription. otherwise my response would have been a little bit different. I gotta get used to the new sounds. Got a little bit more of an undertow going on now. That's a bit of a concern. This is starting to say, you know, hey, this you might want to be a little bit careful. This could be causing some problems. From the S&P perspective, the volume's still at 51.25, but below that bull bar is going to be extraordinarily obvious. So I am much more interested there than anywhere else. Realistically, the upside objectives on that can come in a couple different ways. At the very least, up towards like the 57s. Gold is getting absolutely pummeled right now. Wow. Gold is finally, maybe, are we finally getting out of this? Boy, it looks like it, huh? Let's see. Does anything get in the way? Does anything get in the way? Oh, no. Crap. Yes, it does. Okay. I can't do anything yet. I need more proof or disproof of that support. S&P, you've got to see it dip a little bit further down here. 39.53.75 is the first zone of interest. NASDAQ starting to pull back to the lows of the wedge / channel. Incredibly interested in another high on the NASDAQ. For shorts, that is. Much more on the short side. Didn't really get that. How long is this box? What? Okay, I'm just going to make a new one. Going to deal with the Stretch Armstrong box over here. Scalpers will be eyeballing a two-legged pullback to the move. Let's see. That would put price down right now, floating around the 27s. Where does a three-press wedge put this? Okay. Kind of hope it goes a little higher, honestly. Oof. Big dive down now. If they can dive down into the 2850s, that'll be the zone of interest for buyers. On the S&P, still looking at 53.75. NASDAQ's testing the bottom of the wedge. Can they overshoot? Little more. Nice little overshoot. Immediately bounces back up. There's the nice little blow off. So if buyers are going to be pushing back, this is going to be the zone of interest that they're going to be pushing back from. They finally have a pullback to work with. Initial pop looking for above the 32s, preferably. Nice bull bar. Got to see a bit more continuation now. A little bit of a pushback down. Buyers are trying to defend here, but it's looking like it might want to try to get another push lower. I'm going to reduce just a little bit here because the other average on the other two is fairly low. But I'm not going to hold on to full risk if it's not going to bounce the way that I wanted to. Of course, it ended up just being the trap before the move. This is probably last call for buyers to reload on this before it pops back up to retest the lows of the wedge. First objective is going to be around the 38 mark. 37 rather. A lot of resistance up here. I'm going to reduce again just in the event that they get a little bit of a push through this break-even point around 25. Yep, it's fairly obvious that buyers are trying to defend that area, but they weren't doing it so successfully. Nice dip down to the European lows. So if they're going to get the trap going, this is going to be the area that makes a lot more sense for them to do it. S&P triggers in the long. First objective, 56.75, although scalpers do have 54.75 to play with as well. Geez, NASDAQ blew way off through the lows. I add an order to the S&P for a second NASDAQ. Jeez. S&P takes out the first scalper's target. Secondary objective is going to be 56.75. S&P has the stop at break even for the scalpers. Objective still at 56.75. Not really much of a change there. Jeez. Still dealing a lot. Even after, normally after like the first 15 minutes or so, the volatility starts to calm down a little bit, but we're still getting a lot of volatility. Nice continuation, push to the upside. Obviously, this got away from me a little bit, so I'm going to make sure to reduce a bit while it's continuing higher and see if we can trail off this last one to kind of compensate a bit. Nice move. Keep going. Don't pull back too much. Pull back too much and I'm going to lose interest. Keep going. There we go. Nice big blow off. I'll take it off there. Nice. So that helped kind of compensate for the other ones. The earlier losses that I took on the move down and the fact that I wanted to mitigate a little bit of risk but leave some on, that makes a lot more sense. Target taken out on the S&P. Wait, was it? What happened to my, where'd my S&P chart go? Hang on. I don't have any open positions, do I? No. So it must have got the target. What the heck? Where'd it go? And I would have called it 15-minute hill too. Why did I name all of them that? I need to give these different names. Hang on. This one? No. That one? Ah, got it. Jeez. All right. Now you can go back over there now that that's done. Nice big healthy pullback here on the NASDAQ. Starting to get a little bit deeper, though. Like I said, this move pulled back a lot farther than I think buyers, myself included, will have wanted it to pull back. That was not a pullback that I was... Granted, I was paying attention to the S&P at the time, but it slid really quick. And that went a lot farther than a lot of buyers will have wanted to have kind of dealt with. So realistically, if it starts coming back down here, you can see that jitteriness around these break-evens. Earlier sellers who were trying to pressure it down, they are now starting to get a little bit jittery at break-evens. But as soon as it popped back up, I'm not looking for it to go all the way back up to the highs. You saw my mentality too. It's like, yeah, okay. reducing risk. Don't like the risk, etc. Maybe they can get another pullback down to the channel lows. Actually, what would look really nice is a wedge test. This looks like it's gearing up a pretty aggressive wedge. 10 minutes until 10 o'clock. Major zone of support is going to be at 73.50, and maybe that's the flush that we're looking for. If we look at this in terms of repetition, oh, that puts it almost right there too, man. One more low. One more low. Come on, NASDAQ. I tell you, that NASDAQ 15-minute candle doesn't give me the warm fuzzies. I'm not all about that. Jeez, that bear bar off the top is not nice. We really need to see the buyers show up to the party here. Gold continuing to get smashed. So we are breaking through that support. I mean, the next zone of interest, if we zoom way, way out on this initial rally up, not on the accumulation, but just the rally. Where does all that volume come in? Ooh, right there. 1696. That's the spot. That's a trap below the lows. It's a VVP. It's everything that it needs to be. In terms of risk or stop sizing, I mean, realistically, it shouldn't break below that by much. So around 87.6 to 83 would be kind of the break point. But, I mean, realistically, the reward potential would be all the way back up to at least here. So it's about 2 to 1. That fits. All right, so we finally have a point of interest on gold, and it's still got about 10 points to go. So we'll check back on you, gold. Ooh, what was the euro doing? Ooh, what was NASDAQ doing? Hang on, sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place. That was a nice attempted breakdown through the wedge lows. Continuation on the breakdown. Now sellers are getting a bit more favor. Are they getting closer to that buy zone? Come on now. At the moment, that would be around 97.25. Initially. S&P on the 5-minute chart doesn't look too friendly. That bear bar peeking off at the top makes it really tough. Keep in mind, the S&P and the NASDAQ do detach from one another very frequently, so that doesn't necessarily matter too terribly much for the NASDAQ. Nice little dip down into support. Immediately responds off of support. This is the trap point, but keep in mind, the zone of interest, the big area, if they want to really flush this and really grind some blood in the streets, 73.50. I'd like to see an initial continuation pop up towards like the 902.50s. All right, so here's the overflush down to 73.50, and this is the monster zone. This is the area where things get very, very interesting from the swing perspective. A lot of traders will be watching this area in a much larger sense. Remember, this area we're talking like 15-minute charts, hourly charts. This is a way bigger zone. So we did get the overflush, unfortunate for me, so I will have to reduce a little bit when it starts popping back up again. But I love this area's support. The knife has kind of hit the floor, so to speak, for now. The question is, does it want to keep piercing? Let's see here. Of course, as soon as I decide to look at it. Oof. Man, I hit the bid a couple times, didn't get a single one of them. There they go. So with this rotation to the downside, it's obvious that sellers are trying to get a continuation push to the down, like we were talking about, blood in the streets. So this is the risk on side of things. Either you just accept the loss, which should have happened a long time ago, or you're just waiting for the slide to find its bottom. Manage risk appropriately. S&P continuing down now. It's got 3 bear bars consecutively lower. We've got 10 o'clock top of the hour. There's no news at 10, but 10 o'clock top of the hour by itself can sometimes mess with things a little bit. Nice dip down into slightly more favorable territory. Again, we know this area is just blood in the water territory. Just got to dip down here and figure out where they want to put in the lows. It's likely still very early. If they're going to actually transition this from what, at least what I'm looking for, my expectation here is to see something along the lines of this big dive down, two-legged correction to the lows, and we get this zone of interest right around, well, I was originally anticipating the lows, but it seems like they're going a bit lower. Now it seems like they're lining up with previous structural support. So if they're going to really, again, get the blood in the streets, anything below 73.50 is a zone of interest. What I'm expecting to see is something along the lines of that. And then from there, probably that, so on and so forth. But they haven't put in the low yet. So until the knife hits the floor, you don't know where that floor is. Let's see. Now, if we start breaking through the European session lows, I'm going to look to try to optimize my entry by reducing and adding all at the same time. They're not quite there yet. Ooh, higher low off of the lows, but not quite there yet. 10 o'clock. Oh, geez. Alarm clock. So again, I'm accepting the loss on a portion, trying to draw my average down because I still like this as a zone of interest. think I can hear my dog dreaming in the other room. Nice big overextensive leg to the downside, trapping below that previous major swing. The next zone of interest is going to be the overall lows. But we'll see what they want to do here. I believe I've got my targets out at about 1 to 1. I'm sorry, 2 to 1. 1 to 1. They're hovering around the 2 to 1. It's a little bit further up. This is also potentially a major break-even point. A lot of traders will utilize this area to jump ship on longs that they feel trapped on. I don't feel trapped on this long, so that's fine with me. I've already reduced my risk and will continue to, manage it appropriately. But this is also a break-even point that a lot of traders will push back on. So don't be surprised to see some bearishness off of right around a break-even point, which is exactly what's happening right now. This does also give us a little bit more confirmation that the knife is potentially hit the floor. We've got a nice first bottom. Secondary bottom point not too much further down. Still trying to pull my average down to a more favorable zone. S&P continuing to the downside. Bear bars still pushing lower. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, working on the 5th bear bar down now. NASDAQ's got that that little bull bar inside the mix, I guess. Playing the European session lows just a little bit here. Let's see. There we go. And that does wonders for my average. Now it's much easier to manage from down here and just let it do its thing. Still sitting on the negative side from the initial slide down, so it's got some work to make up yet, but I'm okay with where my average is at now. That does mean that first point of interest is going to have to modify down just a little bit, though. At least a little more than half. The zone of support that I wanted to see at 73.50 didn't hold. After that, it's free to, it's free to go as high as it wants. European session highs in 940. 36 seems better. Beautiful bull bar. Wow. Well, instead of being too aggressive, I'm gonna tone these out just a little bit. That previous low is too obvious. I think that's got to go there. Yeah, that seems a bit more reasonable. S&P has plotted a singular bull bar. I'd like to see if we can get another test around these 39s, 38s. I would like to have maybe a few more. Nice little wedge working its way down, at least from there. And we've got the wedge bottom over here, kind of holding the market up on the other end. And then I don't get filled when it does what I want it to. Okay. That's not fair. Go to the snot fair with my kids. They take me there a couple times a day anyway. Season passes. Strong bull bar back up. Man. Beautiful continuation. First objectives into the 64 quarters and 71 quarters. See if they can push through that volume at 73.50. Remember, I'm assuming this whole area is just an accumulation zone for a larger move up, so I'm trying to build this area as a swing zone. Another bear bar down could potentially try to flush back to the wedge lows instead. I'm not going to be as quick to jump on that one. Might even be favorable to watch the wider one to see if we can get a dip down to that. There we go. Nice little slide down into the potential zone of support. Starting to create a bit of an avalanche wedge. Which would be... I know I've got all these orders and everything all over the place, but... probably like this would be the best fit. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay. Looking at the bigger perspective, rather, the S&P still has a really gnarly 15-minute bar off the top. We've got gold, which is not quite there yet, still waiting for 96s. Crude oil looking for the retest on the inside of the wedge, not there yet. Everything else just kind of hovering. The market is displaying an undertow the whole way down. Gold still has a ways to go. There's not really much else going on. There's no news today, so, I mean, from that front, there's not really much to kick things in the pants, but all it takes is a tweet, as we know. Although those are a little bit fewer and farther between. A hedge fund got liquidated Friday. Who? Who got liquidated? Some capital something or other, Arpagos or something? Okay. Huh. Whoopsie. Tried hitting the bid again. You can see as soon as it taps those lows how jittery it is down here. Buyers are accumulating very aggressively. We just haven't seen that pop higher yet. We've seen a couple of them, but nothing with any legs yet. Eventually, we'll get the break-even pop. And I call it a break-even pop because very likely it's going to turn back down and continue lower. But we haven't had that move yet. And whenever you have a strong type of move that takes people by surprise, you'll usually end up getting something along the lines of that break-even pop that allows all of the people who were managing on the way down, who maybe didn't take a loss or whatever, to get out of break-even before reversing the market back lower. So that's what we're seeing right now. I'm going to reduce a little more into European lows. Let's see if we can get the next pop back up into like... this DP zone is nice. I don't want to see... Wow, that was a lot of volume. Don't break back below 6150. All right, I'm going to drop another one there with all that volume coming in at 64. So this is the break-even push. This is the one where if there's too much bearishness to the downside, this is probably going to roll to the lows. So I'm playing this very close to the chest right now. Got support in the 56s or so. I need to see this keep going up. All right, I've only got 2 left, so now if it's going to pull back to the lows, that's fine. My average is in a perfectly acceptable place. And now, if it does want to push down to the lows, this is where we're likely going to get that final trap. Remember, that new high takes out all the stops of the sellers who were trying to trail along the way. They get taken out just to see it roll back over again. This is why we were exiting into this pop. Where do you see the break even? Right around there. A lot of times when you look at the overall, you like that answer? Usually when you draw the volume, it'll be where the VVPs are or the voids ahead of time. So while the market is driving down, first off, we need to see signs of accumulation before the gas pedal is going to start getting pressed down. And that didn't start showing up until here. Then we get signs of accumulation. Usually, to be fair, accumulation shows up in 3s. This one showed up in 4s. These two are equal, but 1, 2, 3, and 4. And, then they start kind of petering out below there. So if this is going to start bouncing higher, then realistically, you can kind of think of it this way, where buyers were obviously potentially long here. I'm not going to count them. I'm going to count them as sellers, profit takers, etc. These ones right at the top, I'm not going to count those. I don't think they're trapped. If anything, those were sell orders. I want to look at the logical zones of interest. Swing low, lots of volume there. Buyers were probably buying for continuation. Now we have the start to our story. Buyers are stuck here. That's where I'll begin. The next zone of interest, we've got more volume, and the market broke through. So I'm assuming that they were probably adding in there. They stopped adding in for a little while until we got this move down here. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and this is less, so I'm not going to count that one. So if we stack all of these together and put the average, that puts the average right around, it would help if I would have just put lines on it. Let's see. They were buying there. They're buying there. There, 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 and there. So I'm going to take them all together. So I know one of those was from a line earlier from the first 5, so I can't count that one. No, 12,949 plus the 12,927.75. 12,891. 12,880 half. 12,863 half. 12,842 quarter. Divided by how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it puts a break-even point roughly around 1289.3. And like I was going into, when you're looking at those areas, it typically falls on top of a VVP. So if we line that area up, that lines up with right there. That's their break-even. So that's the objective. Let's see here. Archegos? Archegos Capital? Tiger Management Bill. $15 to $20 billion position that was leveraged to 80? You know, they should really have something in place, like a patterned rule or something to allow, you know, we got to protect these hedge funds from themselves, right? We need like a rule in place to stop them from being able to do that, like a max leverage or something, you know? If you're new or you don't know my sense of humor, I am being incredibly facetious and taking a direct stab at the PDT rule, which I think is absolutely archaic and stupid. Market's trying to get a continuation leg to the upside, but it is having some trouble. The average is in a perfectly fine spot. I'm okay with where that area is. In terms of other areas, the next major VVP that's likely going to try to get filled in is back up at 44. Volume of the day is at 40, so I'm not going to try to play with fire. We'll also see if we can get a little bit of a dip back on a quick impulse move. Markets love doing that kind of stuff. Let's see if we can get a couple more again. Check the Viacom charts. Hang on, am I connected to the stock data? I am now. Let's see here. Wait, why am I using NinjaTrader? NinjaTrader for stocks. Like, I'm only going to get 2 years of data. Let's see here. Oops. Viacom, what? I guess I just never realized that they had that right on the, they had CBS on the end of it too. I just always thought it was Viacom. Hold up. NASDAQ. Whoa, NASDAQ. What? No, what? Oh man, they're playing hard, dirty ball, every kind of backwards, sideways nastiness you could think of. Wow. What kind of BS was that? I had all my orders just waiting. Oy. Ooh, that hurts. That hurts my soul. All right, I'm gonna drop those. Now, if it comes back, I'm not interested in defending there. I missed my opportunity in an incredibly frustrating manner. There's nothing I could have done about it. I wouldn't have changed my entries, but irritating. Viacom getting absolutely obliterated. And this is an, good lord, this is an hourly chart. Oof. I believe is the term the villagers use in Minecraft for when they get hurt. Yikes. And here we sit, going into 10:30 around the corner. NASDAQ is just toying with my emotions at this point. Now that they've had so many misses on the lows, honestly, it's probably going to rifle through a lot of this. I'm expecting it to go up more towards like the 906s, 905s in that area. It makes a lot more sense to see this blow off the top if they're going to keep it going. If it's going to dip lower, I'm not interested in buying ahead of the lows anymore. They're probably going to break down through the lows at this point, so no interest there. Much more interested down in like the 806s, 805s if it does break a new low. If it does end up breaking a new low, that'll be the last time that I'll be trying to get a position to go long for a swing at least. But I'm trying to hold on to this position. I would love to hold on to this until the end of the day, or going into, you know, even tomorrow if possible. But it just depends on how they want to approach this. Notes are shooting highs again. Yeah. This is a strong bear bar too, so you know, some buyers will start jumping ship with this bear inclination to the downside. Understand, you got to be empathetic to both sides. Just because I'm long doesn't mean I can't look at reasonable opportunities for shorts, because that would tell me that if I'm edgy or I want to get out of the trade, I might want to start thinking about it, right? There's a reason to short. Wanting to be long is a lot more hard. A lot more hard. Nice. A lot more difficult. So we'll see if this wants to rotate back to the upside or if it's going to dive a little bit lower. We are also going into 10:30, which is usually when we start cutting things off a little bit. So feel free to get those final questions in. We'll get those wrapped up and taken care of for you. Whoops. I didn't mean to hit the add button again there. That was an accident. My bad. Back to the London Open on the ES. Yep. I mean, really, the big thing that I'm playing off of is the larger time frame. I know that buyers are holding the L3. I know they're holding these areas of support. We're getting really nice zones of support as even larger, proof. But the problem is I just can't buy above a bull bar trying to get continuation. I've got to try to buy on the dip in hopes that I can reduce my stop sizes enough to make it favorable to try to hold on for those big multi-day runs, at least from a swing perspective. Same would go for the S&P or any of the others. End of the month, end of the quarter, NFP, yeah. That'll definitely have an impact for sure. I mean, honestly, if this is going to reverse and start churning back to the upside again, is it really that unrealistic to see this wanting to go back up all the way to the highs? Up towards settlement? The zone down here is still way more interesting. You just got to keep going. That's the caveat here. Banks are closed Friday. Low liquidity. Yep. Add that to non-farms, and I mean, geez, it could be a wild one. Coming off the backs of quad witching last, I mean, we've got some pretty stacked weeks, you know. Now we sit. Man, Bitcoin is forming another really nice little pennant ahead of the actual test of the top of the channel. Lordy, lordy. Kind of looks like a llama. Okay, that sort of reminds me of Fortnite a little bit. Got the little unicorn horn on the top. I played, obviously, far too much of that yesterday with my son. Nice dip back again. I'm not so much interested in the higher low anymore. Now that we have a near test, though, if this does continue high and breaks another new high, a lot of buyers who are long from down here won't allow it to come back again. So if it breaks above these 73.50s and starts churning higher, the stops will go to break even, disallowing any of that to become a loss again. Some traders will have already done that, but it is early. Beautiful continuation play to the upside. All right, well, we're getting a little bit later in the day, and I'm still just babysitting the same thing. It's kind of thrown me around the rodeo for a little while, but it seems like it's cooperating now, at least. Of course, now that I've said that. Let's get those last questions in. Give me a second. I'll be right back, and then we'll get everything taken care of. Oh, and I get to test my my BRB screen, too. Hang on. I don't like that. I wanted it to still show the screen. I messed something up. I'll just leave it here. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. Still a buyer at the 12,800s. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, if they start, like right now, if they made it back down to a new low, that wouldn't really disprove the longs enough for me to not like it at 12,800. So I still like it down there. But I do like it at a new low. I don't like it at a higher low anymore. I think the higher low has exhausted itself, as we can see. I tried buying a little bit higher on the higher low. I didn't get those, but, you know, c'est la vie. If we start breaking the highs above 73, 74, 75, you know, getting above 880, something like that, then I lose a lot of interest in wanting to buy a new low. At that point, if it breaks down to another low, then this was just a two-legged correction before a trend continuation, and I'm not going to deal with that. So as it stands right now, I'm okay if it makes a new low because we haven't broken a new high. If it breaks a new high, stops are at break even. That's how I'm approaching this at the moment, at least. Shows hedge fund exit was too slow. Well, yeah, obviously. what rocket genius wrote that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Closed how big of a loss? So did they get a bailout? Like, how does that work? Hedge funds are too big to fail now, right? I mean, just tax everybody else a little more. That's how it's. Before I start any fights, let's let's do final call and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah, I'm not about to go down the political rabbit hole. No, thank you. Very nice continuation to the upside. I've got to see it push into the 900s. I'm looking for the 905s or so. Well, one thing that does stand out, we've got a couple wedges. That doesn't line up very nicely at all. That one is already held and broken, so the only other one might be here, and that's a bit earlier at 94s, 93s. It's right at the top of that volume node and at the beginning of the first VVP. So I'm going to put it right on the lowest volume pocket at 95.75 and utilize that as the first objective. It's the top of the wedge. It's a VVP. It's the previous breakout point where buyers were long trying to get this thing going back up. It just makes more sense there. And I'm not about to argue over a nickel or two. Good enough. Fine, you vindictive SOB. Now the next one, man, I really wish that volume wasn't at 40. Listen to the last 20 seconds of Muhammad. Okay. I'll listen to it after I close down the room. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Just as a side note to the VIPs on the Zoom side, did everything work well? Did everything go all right? Nice and solid? Solid. Perfect. Awesome. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad we got that figured out. That's awesome. Cool. Well, like usual, today was recorded. As far as the yeah, I'm with you. As far as the ow, I just bit my tongue. As far as the recording goes for the live trade rooms, I'm not going to upload a double recording. I mean, it's the same thing, so I find it pointless to upload a Zoom meeting recording for the VIPs so if you want to watch the recording back, it's on YouTube and you can watch it back immediately, which is kind of nice. So otherwise, if I miss any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I will get those covered for you from there. Hopefully you had a great day of trading. Rest up, and we will see you all tomorrow, right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.